Good morning, everybody, and happy International Women's Day. So excited to see all of you here and to welcome all of you to our International Women's Day 2019 Holland Bloorview celebration. This is going to be a great panel. We've got amazing women behind me. One other woman is on her way if Bayview doesn't thwart her. We can do many things as women, but traffic is one of those things we just can't make not happen. But I'm sure she'll be here shortly. So pleased to see so many faces on, again, yet another busy Holland Bloorview Day. At Holland Bloorview, we talk about the F words. Who knows what the F words are? Fun, family, function, fitness, friends, future. Or that. Families are good too, Diane. That's okay. But today I'm going to talk about another F word, and that's feminism. It's not a word we talk about every day, but it's a word we ought to think about every day here at Holland Bloorview. What do we know about Holland Bloorview? We know that we're 120 years old today. So happy birthday, Holland Bloorview. And who were our original founders back in 1899? 22 women who came together, 18 of whom were also among the founders of the Hospital for Sick Children. And they came together because they knew there was going to be an amazing institution in this city for acutely ill children, but they knew there was going to be a need for a place for children who needed longer-term care, and that was what has become Holland Bloorview over the past 120 years. I put down on my hero bubble Mrs. Zowski. I don't even know what her first name was, Mrs. C.S. Zowski, who was our inaugural chair of the Ladies Committee, who helped formed Holland Bloorview and led us to the place we are today. What else do we know about women in the world, not in 1899, but in 2019? We know that women are earning 75 cents on the dollar what men earn. There's still work to go. We know that 64% of child care, elder care, home care work is done by women. That's something we really care about here at Holland Bloorview because we know about the caregiver needs of our families. We know that among women, Indigenous women are 6 times more likely to be killed than non-Indigenous women. And we are so grateful today to be thinking, criticizing, enjoying, sharing in this day together on lands that have been continuously occupied for thousands of years and are lands that we are here courtesy of treaty rights, and as settlers we're grateful to be here on lands of the Mississaugas of the New Credit. We know that healthcare is a very feminized profession. Lots and lots of women work in healthcare, but leadership in healthcare doesn't look like the rest of healthcare. Among the academic hospitals, CEOs, 5 women, 7 men. Proud to say at Holland Bloorview, our senior management team is majority women, our board of trustees is majority women. Lest you say, oh, that's because we're in pediatrics and that's what pediatrics looks like, take a look at pictures of the boards of directors and the boards of trustees of other pediatric hospitals across North America. We have extraordinary women leaders, and we have extraordinary leaders across the board here at Holland Bloorview. Today, International Women's Day, is also a day when we celebrate not only each other as colleagues, but many of us are thinking about our families, our moms, our daughters, the women in our lives who have made a difference to us. My mother is a polio survivor, among the last of the women who were not, and the young people and the kids who were not vaccinated. Had she grown up here, she would have been a patient at the Home for Incurable Children. She grew up instead in the U.S., and I have lots of pictures in our family albums of her mother stretching her legs and taking her swimming and helping her with her therapy. I have 2 daughters, as you know, my daughter Rachel, who's done youth at work here and is still trying to figure out what her most meaningful life and most meaningful future is, like many millennial young women. And my younger daughter, Leah, whose birthday card to me I tripped over yesterday. And funnily enough, it worked very well for the purposes of International Women's Day. So this was from when she was 14. She's a first-year engineering student at Queen's now. And so this is what she says. So this was the year, it's interesting, it was the year I started at Holland Bloorview. So she says, "You went for it!" Exclamation mark. I'm 100% sure you're going to rock this new job. So that's pretty cute. And then this is the place where I want to leave you. She said, "You remind me very much of me, and even though this makes us bicker sometimes, this is true. I think it makes us strong, independent women." So what is the legacy we all leave as we support our friends, as we support our colleagues, as we support our family members, our sisters, our moms, our aunts, our cousins? We all want to help each other rise up. We all want each other to be better today, better tomorrow than we were yesterday. We all want to support each other and build a better future together. I'm thrilled to be able to turn the microphone over to our own Minu Sekan, our new, I'm going to still call you new, Executive Lead, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, your host for today's event. Thank you very much, Minu, for organizing us today, and over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming to this wonderful event, which is very, very close to my heart, and Julia, for your wonderful and inspiring remarks. International Women's Day, I think, even though the word is woman there, I think to me, it means more. It means that we are talking about the value system. So International Women's Day is talking about the value of women, and also how can we celebrate the womanism or our feminism or womanhood. Because I think the issue is not that why we are not celebrating women enough. I think issue for me is always why we are not celebrating the qualities that women bring to the table. I think women are born natural leaders, but what the system or our patriotic system has done is devalued those qualities, and somehow we need to create another day to celebrate International Women's Day. Whereas I see if we break the system and say we are celebrating what we bring to the table as a woman, as an LGBT community, as the community who are oppressed by the privilege and power, that is the real meaning of International Women's Day. So it's a day to connect, to engage, and to celebrate what makes us as a woman. So, many years ago when I started working, I was told passion is not a good thing to have. We bring, calmness, and we bring level-headedness to the job. We don't bring our passion to a job. And I look back and I today say, I am proud, I am loud, and I am passionate about the work I do, and this makes me a best executive that I could be. And I think that's what the celebration means to, I hope, means to all of you. So today's theme is balance for better. And that balance, I think women does bring a balance to this universe. It's just that we have not recognized what balance means to all of us. It's not always about balancing your career and your personal life. I think it's balancing the universe. We bring balance with compassion. We bring balance with a word that sometimes forget to look at each other and engage and connect at the levels that matters to us. And I'm so proud that we have some excellent speakers here today who will share their journey. But if I could just take a few minutes to talk to you about my journey as a woman, as a South Asian woman who was born in a developing country. This is the first International Women's Day that I'm celebrating without a very important person in my life, my own mother. But I am not sad today because I know that as women we built each other, and she has raised me to be who I am today and to be able to take her legacy, because 60 years ago she fought for her right to be able to go to university with her brothers. Education was important to us. Education was important to her, but she knew that in a small town where there's no girls' colleges available, her education will be stopped just because she was a girl. But I also have known women who were never allowed to come into this world because they were women. We know the cultures we come from, that sometimes you're just glad that you were allowed to be born. And then we take one step further, we are glad that we are allowed to be educated. And then look around this table, the professionals. I know Julia mentioned that here we are the leaders in pediatric, and we do have predominantly women, but I think that's what makes Holland Bloorview is a very special place, because we are connecting, we are engaging, but we are also leading with the virtues we have as a woman. And when I say as a woman, I think it's the qualities that I just spoke about. So having said that, let's begin our celebration for International Women's Day. Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for taking the time to come and start this dialogue. We have our fourth speaker. Please come. So I'm very excited to introduce our panelists today. Our first panelist is Dr. Sharon Smile, and I'm not going to give a lot of details because I know you know your panelists very well. And but just to give her her due space, Dr. Smile is a clinical study investigator in the Bloorview Research Institute. She's an assistant professor in the Department of Pediatrics at the University of Toronto. She graduated from the University of West Indies, Kingston, in 1997, and in 2009 she completed her fellowship training. So here to you, Ms. Dr. Smile. I'm not going to read your resume, it's too long.
Thank you, Minu. That's going to be the last speaker. I'm not really very talkative if everyone knows me. Yeah, I'm very sure. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here. And when Minu came and asked me, Sharon, would you I'd like to invite you to be a speaker. I'm like, okay, maybe. And I'm like, what's the theme? And she said, balance for better. And I'm like, I don't think I'm the right person. Nah, I'm the poster child for imbalance. So maybe I shouldn't be the one speaking here. But it's a privilege to be able to acknowledge the International Women's Day here in a forum at a hospital as well, amongst really amazing colleagues. And I sat and I thought about, what does balance mean to me? And that was one of the questions that Minu asked. And I reflected on a poet that I really, really like, and his name is Khalil Gibran. And he said that the partition between a sage and a fool is as thin as a spider's web. And I substituted that to say the partition between chaos and balance is as thin as a spider's web. And the reason why I say that is because balance has to be intentional. It means different things for different people. And for me, as a physician coming in, my priority is going to work, seeing our families, and try to make sure that we do the best for our families. And then sometimes you forget about yourself. You forget about your fish at home. You forget about your family. You forget about eating. And so for me, balance in reflecting is being able to remember you, right? And remember that you need to take care of yourself as a woman, because everyone expects other things from you, and you probably deliver on it. As Julia said, you're going to rock it, right? You come to work and you're going to rock it and be the best and empower others. But for me, balance also means recognizing when you're out of balance and then trying to find a middle ground. My journey, like Minu, as a person coming from a developing country, I reflect on how amazing it is for women in a developed country such as Canada, and even in our healthcare sector, to celebrate things like maternity leave, which sometimes is not even a possibility in other countries, to celebrate even the possibility of having an opportunity to work and to do something that you really care and passionate about, and not necessarily a job description, but being at a place like Holland Bloorview where you're able to expand and to test the boundaries that exist and create things that are new. These are things that are very special, not only with Holland Bloorview, but being in a Western country that our other females and other women don't have that opportunity. And even the simplest thing as literacy. And as we know, women across the world, at least 2/3 are heads of families. And if a parent is unable to read, a parent is unable to educate their child, that means there's a generational difficulty that will be there. And so for me, thinking about what does International Women's Day mean to me, it means to be present at the moment, at all times, recognizing who you are. You don't necessarily have to be the biggest advocate, marching down Queen Street, or being on television, or being a superstar, but owning who you are in the moment, every day, every second, because that little girl or little boy who's running down the walls of not the walls, no, should not do that, the halls of Holland Bloorview, they will stop and look and say, there's someone who looks like me. There's someone who, that's a bigger version of me. And when they see me in that moment, if I'm doing my flossing, which I'm not good at, or if I'm just being present, I represent womanhood. And that could be the first thing that that young lady or young boy sees and aspires to. So I don't necessarily have to be the biggest advocate, the best Twitter person, but I just have to be the best me. And in being the best me, I think it impacts others who see me, and I'm not even aware of it, and sometimes I am. And just celebrating being a woman. I know gender, for this year, there's a lot of gender equality, and that's one of the themes as well. But I hope for the day when we don't have to start compartmentalizing everything that we do and everybody that we see. So I hope for the day that I don't have to define you by your sexual orientation, the way you look, where you're coming from, but that I celebrate that you're a Homo sapien, a human being. And once that day exists, that's when I'll start celebrating just being me. Okay?
Thank you. We will take the questions afterwards, so I'm going to, who wants to go next? I will write. We're just being informal. So I'll introduce you to my friend Alifa Khan. She's incredibly passionate about patient education and advocacy. She truly believes that in order to become the empowered patient family, one must be involved in the change processes to create an effective impact. She serves as a co-chair of the Family Advisory Committee, is also currently involved in the Privacy, Quality, and Risk Management Committee. So off to you.
Thank you, everybody. Am I on? Oh, yes, I am. Hello, good morning. Well, to start with, my journey, well, actually not my journey, my son's journey, which also kind of translates to be half of my journey, started here at Holland Bloorview about 6.5 years ago. Needless to say, it's been a wonderful experience with ebbs and flows, bumps, roller coasters, everything else in between, peaks and hills and valleys as well, but we're doing well. The picture that you guys are looking at up top is actually a picture of Junaid and I in an airplane. That was actually taken a couple of months ago when we had gone away for Christmas. We actually snuck away. We were fortunate enough to get somebody to fund that for us. So yeah, in terms of my family, currently it would be my mom, who's definitely my superhero. However, she happens to be the most amazing ninja when it comes to taking pictures, because every single time everybody's grouped together, she somehow spontaneously disappears, and we're all like, Mom, where are you? And even when I asked her today, I'm like, okay, well, can I just take a picture of you? And she's like, no, nobody wants to see me. It's all about you. And I'm like, no, you're the woman that made me, and you're the woman that has actually pushed me in ways so that I could be here to speak to everybody as well. So, yes, I definitely, I definitely honor her in all of her worth and everything that she's done in order for me to be here. So, to go on, as a client and family, Junaid has had the opportunity to be a part of the child developmental program, where he was first diagnosed here. He'd also received a lot of his additional assessments in terms of his psychoeducational assessment, as well as speech and occupational therapy. We've also done Triple P here, which is a wonderful program. We've also done the Lego robotics through Therapeutic and Rec, as well as the Facing Your Fears, which actually which has helped him with some of his fears and anxieties around using automatic flushing toilets in other scenes, which happen to be very prevalent everywhere you go right now. So we've kind of figured out a way around that. As well as he currently, or I should say every few months, he does come into the nutrition clinic here as well, where he's seen ongoing. As a family leader, I am a part of the Family Advisory Committee. I happen to be one of the co-chairs. I'm not going to go into all of the things that I could go into, but these are just a couple of things that I thought were good highlights. I'm also on the Privacy Risk Quality Management Committee, and two things that are quite near and dear to my heart would happen to be new parent orientation as well as new staff orientation, because on both sides I'm able to gain wisdom, I'm able to be humbled, and each and every single time I present, I'm able to feel privileged to be a part of this organization, what it's willing to offer both new parents in terms of a warm handover, as well as new staff in terms of really learning about what client and family-centered care is. So when I think about balance, yeah, I have a list of things up there. But what balance means for me, balance is relative and subjective to each individual. Balance requires continuous practice. Balance is actually an act of resilience, which acknowledges the coexistence of multiple competing areas of your life, because all of us have various areas of our lives that we're always trying to manage and make either sacrifices or accommodations for. But beyond that, balance also requires boundaries. And how are we actually looking at implementing those boundaries so that we're able to attain balance and we're also able to protect ourselves in all the things that we'd like to do and succeed, or the areas that we want to succeed in? Furthermore, balance requires support. So what do I mean by that? In order to be here, or in order for all of us to be here, we all have support systems that we need to tap into. And in order to maintain, in my opinion, in order to maintain a balanced lifestyle, sometimes we need to readily be able to tap into those support systems and ask for help when we need it. Or, even having somebody reach out and say, hey, you know what, I see you're struggling. And that's able, or the capability for you to be able to attain your own balance as well. I shouldn't say last, but certainly not least, but balance also requires you to celebrate both the big and the small wins. And even when we falter, balance isn't necessarily about winning or losing, but it's about that continuous evaluation and that continuous courage to continue to look at all areas of your life and evaluate how best you want to show up and what's important to you, because what's important to you today may not necessarily be important to you tomorrow or even an hour from now. So how are we looking at ways of really evaluating what is keeping us whole, what's keeping us present, and what's keeping us here? Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to give Dolly first. Okay, this is sisterhood. So my next speaker is Dolly. Dolly, I think you all know her very well, but I'm still going to say a few words in her honor as our panelist. Dolly is the clinical bioethics at Holland Bloorview Kids Rehabilitation Hospital, vice chair of the Research Ethics Board, and the Youth Engagement Strategy lead. She is particularly interested in pediatric rehabilitation issues that arise in both clinical care and research with children and youth with chronic illnesses and disabilities. So Dolly, I see, is somebody I think who's really, truly need to have balance in her life, given so many roles she plays at Holland Bloorview. Let's hear from Dolly what balance for better means to her.
Thank you, Minu. I hope that everyone I have balanced interests. from the list. So thank you for having me here today. And going third sometimes changes your mind about what you might like to say, right? You come in, you're like, oh yeah, I got a plan. And then you're listening to other things, and really, I actually feel motivated to tell a different story. So I think that International Women's Day for me is actually a regular celebration. Some people know that I went to all-girls school after my many years of being a student at the Holland Bloorview School. I guess it was called Bloorview School then. And being a student, a high school student at an all-girls school, it is a celebration that is very important. But it's not only once a year. It's every day. And I think that that has been an important part of my upbringing, to believe in the support and the achievement that women can look forward to and can attain. And it really was an environment where women were constantly developing and forming bonds and friendship, understanding important elements of how to create outcomes together. And I think that that, for me, was easy to move into because I have really strong women in my life. I have a mother whom I'm surprised that she still answers my calls. And they can be anywhere from, I'm driving somewhere, can you tell me the best route because this one isn't moving? And, oh, is there someone in your office right now? Because I want your support in this moment. To, let's have serious conversations that involve balance around health and the rest of life. And my mother also had an amazing mother. At my house, I have my grandmother's chemical engineering diploma up. And it is from the 30s, from Queen's University, where she then went on to work for natural gas. And they used a formula created by her for many years into the 80s. And after she had kids, she stopped working but started tutoring everyone in the neighborhood in math because she loved it. And my grandma's best friend. I have to say I don't actually know what my grandma's best friend did because she was already retired when I was little. But my mom, my grandma, and my grandma's best friend, Mrs. Fawcett, were core supports for me as I grew up as a young woman with a disability and had expectations for what my life could be and wanted that achievement and a full life filled with lots of therapy, filled with lots of swimming, filled with lots of academics and lots of leisure activities. Lots of travel and enjoyment about all that life could offer. And I think that the humility of wonder of what other women have to offer is something that stays with me every day. And it's something that I have had the pleasure to observe at Holland Bloorview for many, many years. I was surrounded by strong women who were dedicated to their profession and to helping each and every one of their clients achieve their best, problem solve, help, listen. And now I am so pleased and blessed to be a number of those so that I too can support the clients that we see to understand that achievement is possible and to be an individual in their lives that creates a possibility just by being there and by being willing to have the conversation. When I think of Balance for Better, the first thing that comes to my mind is working with our youth leaders. And the conversations are about balance. They are about, yes, we want to hear your story. We want to have the opportunity to learn from your experience. We want to improve our services. We want to change our research. We want to become a better organization, and we want you to help us get there. And we want to make sure that you can put your coat on, or that you can take it off when you get here. And we want to make sure that you're not too tired, and that you know what to do if Wheel-Trans doesn't come and pick you up, and that you know who to call, and that there might be something around that is accessible to eat, because things like plastic cutlery, they're a real showstopper, plastic cutlery. They're slippy, and they're small, and there's not much weight. So when I think of Better for Balance, I think actually of the work that we do. in helping our clients to create a balanced life where they are receiving care that supports their bodies and opportunity that helps them grow as individuals and people. And I have to say that being able to be part of that mix is humbling because I know how impactful it really is. It creates days like today where I'm here having the opportunity to speak to you about why support has all of the influence we could ever hope for. Thank you.
Thank you, Dolly, for your wisdom, as always, and keeping things on track for our youth and for all of us at the organization, keeping us grounded. So our next speaker is Madhu Sikand. The last name may sounds familiar. She's a senior finance manager for Dermalogica, a skincare company, and she's a professional accountant, married with 2 children. And her older son, Baldev, has been a former client of Holland Bloorview. So I think it's really good for us to see that how far the Holland Bloorview has come in providing services and care that we are so proud of. And also hearing about the children and the youth who have graduated and move on and the story of their families. So here to you, Madhu.
Thank you. Thank you, Minu. And I knew I should have gone before you because that was amazing. So, as Minu said, I'm a mom of 2 grown children now, 24 and 21. And my older son, Baldev, who is 24, was born premature and at 6 months and was diagnosed with cerebral palsy, which we all know is a huge umbrella. But when you know initially, you get that diagnosis from the hospital, you don't know. All you do is you do research and you drive yourself crazy and you think, is he going to walk? Is he going to speak? Is he going to... We don't know what his capabilities were. All we knew is that we wanted to help him. We wanted him to be a productive member of society, and I welcomed that challenge because I had my sister who had led the way in my family, and I knew that having a disability didn't mean the... I get emotional because it's been a while since I've been here, but it wasn't a thing that was going to stop our lives. And I was lucky that I had such a supportive family, and my husband, who's here as well, takes me back to that time when it's a shock to learn that, you know, you're pregnant and you're looking forward to what every mother thinks, that they're going to have a child, and you have all these plans, and then you realize, okay, take a step back. You're still going to have those plans for them. They're just a different road that they're going to take. And at that time, we were also lucky. We're at Women's College. Thank you. Hospital, which is a great hospital, and gave us a few months while Baldev was in the NICU to, after getting over the shock, to see what our plan was going to be. And we realized that therapy, early intervention was everything. And as he met his milestones, we were very fortunate that, you know, his disability was mild, but it was real. You know, we still had to find ways to help us lead a life for him that he was meant to be. And that led us to Bloorview, to people like you who were very kind and supportive and, you know, basically said, okay, you felt sorry for yourself, now move on. These are the services we provide, and whether it was physical therapy, occupational therapy, swimming, I think we used everything here. It was such an eye-opening experience. We looked forward to coming here. And by then I had a second child, also premature, but no disability. And he he was a baby, and I'd bring both of them, and they both felt welcome here. This is a hospital a center that welcomes everybody. It integrates people with disability, but other kids also learn that it teaches them that other kids with disability are also people. Brandon, my younger son, grew up very early learning that other kids who don't walk as fast as him and run as fast as him or are still just people. And he swam with his brother Baldav here and also participated in a lot of therapy. He thought it was playing, but it was really therapy. And it gave us such a good foundation. And we met so many families here like ourselves who also opened our eyes to alternative therapies. We tried everything. We tried Botox, which was here, and heel cord extension, also here. Hyperbaric oxygen in Vancouver, stem cells in Germany. It was just so many things that it taught us to be fearless, because I think of people like you who said, you know what, we are going to just keep trying to make a better life for kids with disabilities. And where the balance comes in for me is I did give up my job at, so that was us now, but our family when it was younger, it taught us we can't accept every play date from my younger son. We can't just pick up and go because Baldev's therapy schedule is, has us set to certain things that we have to do. And I stayed home. I was lucky enough to be able to stay home for a few years and then take a step back from my career and work part-time. And I know not everyone has the opportunity to do that, but we felt blessed that we did. And that was actually the best thing for our family. I was able to spend time with both my kids and really see my son be a support for him. Because we treated him normal, enrolled him in baseball, soccer, skiing, swimming. There was not a sport that my younger son did that my older boy didn't. And something like riding a bike, I was sharing this with Minu last night. We gave a bike to our younger boy, and in an hour he was riding it without training wheels. For Baldev, we went to the Easter Seals camp for a week as a family. After 5 days of practice, he finally took his wheels off. And it was such a milestone for us. And we remember those days with joy because we met so many other families going through that. And I think the importance for me at that time was to meet families like that, because you feel alone, isolated in a world that, because my son did not come to Bloorview. He went to a school because his disability was deemed mild. But we always knew he was different, and people treated him differently. He had challenges, and as much as we treated him normally, that wasn't the case out there. And I think for me, the balance was to be positive for him and happy for my younger son, but inside I always felt that we had to insulate him from the world out there. Tried not to be a helicopter parent, but I was. I know that. And his journey was not without challenges. He's now a graduate, from Queens, and he's doing his MBA, CPA, he's writing his exams, or he would be here. Or he may not, because he doesn't like to hear me talk about him. But it wasn't without challenges. The first year of high school was very tough for him, where people didn't accept him, particularly in social situations like maybe dances. And I remember he went through a very tough time in that first year, and we ended up moving him to an all-boys school, sort of like your experience. And that was much better for him, take out the influence of the opposite sex at that time, because that is very intimidating for any young man, but with someone with a disability, it's more so. but it did prepare him to, face the world. And the impact on me, while everything was great, I took 10 years off, took a step back, went back to the working corporate world for the last 10, 11 years, but you pay a price. You are not at the same level as your peers were. That's a sacrifice you make. A sacrifice you make happily, but when you go back and you're at work 8 hours a day, you realize, okay, I'm just starting out. I know I have way more experience than you, but here I am, starting back square one. And to me, I think that's what balance is all about. You accept what you can't change, but you keep changing, what you can, which is your kid's life, and you show them that you can go back to work. Yes, it was a setback for me to take those 10 years off, but I went back, found a productive job, and go forward. And I know my kids always tell me that, I was a great role model because of that as well. Not just helping them go through their challenges, but also showing that you don't give up. You accept the obstacles in your life, but you keep going forward. And of course, it helps that, you have a great support system like my sister, my husband, my 2 boys who are very, very close. And it's a challenge to make sure that they do get close because, it's not easy for the kid with a disability to say, well, why is it so easy for the younger son? He just goes through life with not a care in the world. And the older boy, being the older son, he always wanted to feel like he wanted to teach his younger brother, but he ends up learning a lot from his younger sibling. So thank you for having me on this great day, but that's my story. Thank you.
Thank you, Madhu. I know it was hard, but I think today is the day we also create opportunities for women to speak about their experiences. Because a lot of time we have given this persona that we have to be strong and we have to be the one who bring balance to everybody, but not, Sharon talk about the self-care. I think the day we will say it's okay for us to be selfish and say self-care is important for all of us, not just for women, men, or anybody, in a parent role or a single role. I think that is the real day that we do commemorate the virtue of being a woman in this world. Before I open for questions, I'm going to invite Beth to say a few words about, we have the purple flowers on the leaves on your table. Do you just want to tell them about what to do with that? And then I will start taking questions for the speakers. Figure it out.
You can hear me. Speak into the microphone. It's on me. Oh, okay. So maybe share the name of a woman that has been an inspiration to you. Perhaps a quote from a woman that has inspired you. I wrote about my daughter Abby, which some of you know about. It's actually her birthday today. And so, yes, happy birthday, Abby. A little shout out for her. And she reminds me every day about the importance of being strong, being a strong woman, and helping to help her grow into a strong woman. So, any type of reflection about the day, or reflection about a special woman, or about the theme of the day, which is balance for better. We'd love to just see you put one of those on the purple bubble and then attach it to the tree, and we will maybe have these out in the main area a little bit later after our gathering here today. Okay, thank you. And Mina, if you don't mind, in the spirit of balance for better, lots of things going on. So as Minu knows, there are a number of people throughout in the room who are going to be leaving in a few minutes because we're also rolling out, we're really excited, we're rolling out new sleeper beds for inpatient caregivers. This is huge. This is a long time coming. So a number of us will be popping out shortly just to be part of that event as well. But with that, I'll turn it over to Minu.
Yeah, feel free to leave if you have to, but do give us something on the paper that, on the leaves that we can take back, and have your questions ready. It's a part of informal dialogue because we want to be engaged with our audience as well. There's some refreshments, grab a refreshment before you go, and if you stay or if you tell us now, we will take a group shot, or we can take some candid shots, of each table, and then we can make a collage. So it's an open forum. So who has the first question?
I have a question.
Yes.
To the ladies in the room, when you think of International Women's Day, what does balance mean for you? Because we gave you our perspective. What about your perspective? And we can have someone speaking from this table, the first table. I'm gonna moderate over here.
See the natural leadership here.
Cox. I work in the Communications and Public Engagement team. And for me, Balance for Better means making sure I'm looking after myself and making sure I'm looking after the people around me. It's always a struggle because you care so much for the people around you, and you want to give as much of yourself to them as you can. And actually, something that I've been really grateful for at Holland Bloorview is the Mindful Self-Compassion course that was offered last semester. I took it, and it was a very, very good experience. I'm not sure where it's going next, but if it happens again, I hope that I recommend it to all of you.
Anybody else who wants?
I would like to also hear from a male in the audience. As we go to the other table, what is balance? Tom, would you like to say what balance for better means?
Let's start with Sean. It's too bad I learned all the names here.
Thanks, Minu. So it was wonderful to hear from all of you, and I actually just made me think a lot about my daughter, who's 2, and just how important it is to be very aware of all the messages that you're sharing, and to try to share that with her. And I've just been thinking through what the next 5, 10, 15 years will look like, and how dynamic that will change. So the message each of you shared today, I will take away, and we'll communicate and talk with her as she gets older as well. So thank you.
Thank you. If nobody else has a question, maybe I'll follow Sharon's suite, and I will have a question. So with your experience, some of you have been here for a long time, and some of you just started. So how far do you think we have come, and how far we still have to go, whether in your professional or personal capacity, in creating a balance for women? Yeah, Sandra.
Hi, good morning. I'm Sandra Ramdale. I'm the operations manager for the orthotics and prosthetics department here. I have come back the second time because when I first started here, I was it was called Hugh McMillan Medical Center. Anyways, actually it was called Ontario Crippled Children's Center. It's going back a long, long way. You asked a question about how far we've come. I'm standing here as the operations manager of one of the big departments here at the hospital. I think it's come a long, long way. When I applied for a job here, it was in the 80s, and the gentleman who was in charge at the time said that, and straight up to me, that they had some bad experiences with women. So he wasn't interested in hiring women. And I was like, what? What? I've never heard this before. And I pursued, and guess what? He hired me. And I learned so much from the other men in our field. And a lot of women came into our field after that. And I'm standing here because I thought I'd share that with you, that I did think that there was a problem. I never ever thought there was a problem of women getting a job in our profession. And it's something that I've learned to, I don't know, it's worked really well because I've had a lot of support from a lot of individuals at this hospital. And look where I am. I don't know. I feel I've accomplished a lot, and I plan to continue to accomplish a lot and bring on other strong women and men in our field. I like what you said, Sharon, where you want to have a place where we're not talking about this. It's uncomfortable for me to stand here and talk about what happened with me. I don't know why I'm sharing it, because you asked. I thought I'd stand up and say it. But it is actually fairly uncomfortable for me to stand here and say what happened. But honestly, I've grown to be who I am because of all of you here and all of the people that have been here before. And I look forward to working more, and that's it. Bye.
Thank you. So I have a question for the panelists as well. So Leaf and Madhu, whoever wants to answer. You talked about your children, and I'm just going to ask you take one step further, that having a child with disability, do you have any regrets? Do you think that it has given you life experiences that you otherwise would not have, and they're good or they're bad? Would you change them for anything? Take whichever part you want to answer.
So looking back, of course, you would not change anything. The experiences you've had, the people you've met are all because of that one instance that happened to you. So that's the only life you know, and that's the only life I know with Baldev having a disability. And I would love to change the world for him, but I would not change anything in my life, because when I see who I've met and who he's become, I'm happy about it. It's been a hard journey, but the end is beautiful. So that's my experience.
Do you want to answer any part of it?
That is, in my opinion, a very loaded question. As I think about it, I think everything that I've become, everything that I think about, everything that, how I look at the world is basically changed as a result of having my son. And regardless of whether you're a parent of a typical developing child or a child that may have special needs or a child that has a disability, regardless, I think the dialogue is that your life changes regardless. However, to appreciate the journey of thinking about Junaid in the concept of how his life is, I would say that I'm always hyper-vigilant, hyper-aware, and always triaging for his needs. So many times, not only do his needs supersede mine, but sometimes there are times when I actually have to allow the fact that I may need my own self-care in order to preserve, to be a better mom, a better human being, and a better citizen for him, to make that example, as well as to create that segue for all the possibilities that I see for him.
so I'm not really sure if I answered your
No,
question, but
you did beautifully.
it's quite loaded, and
Yeah.
I'm still on my journey. So I don't see it as being okay, stop here, you're at the station. It's not about reaching, to the corner of Kilgore and Bayview. It's more about, taking that long marathon or that long journey of a walk, and, it'll surprise you. But within that surprising journey, you're able to see how strong you are, how courageous you can be, but also you're able to see the beauty of your child unfold in front of you. And there's nothing more rewarding in my eyes than that.
Thank you. And I think that is true for so many families or so many women I have met, whether they have a disability or they have somebody they're caring for has a disability. It does open our eyes to see the beauty in everything, and I think you learn about the human rights not only of your family and for yourself, but you also start to acknowledge that human rights exist everywhere, and we have to create a society where all humans can exist in peace, without war, and be respectful for who we are. Like I said, as I mentioned, early on that the qualities when I started as a young woman in the workforce, when they were told to me as my weakness for standing up for social justice or be passionate about the issues that matter to me, or creating a world which welcomes and respects everybody. But at the end, and I can look back 30 years and I say, those qualities have made me a better leader and a better executive, because I do know what an equitable society should look like, and then what are the strategies, what are the tools available, how we should be influencing policies continuously. So who've been taking a leave of absence to care for their child do not come back and be penalized in their careers. So we must look at filling those gaps. So I think as a policymaker, as a policymaker or as a decision maker, those issues that I have come to know will impact the decisions that we are influencing. So having said that, I think if there is no more questions, let's continue the discussion informally, but I will really appreciate if you feel up to having a picture done. Let's get our picture for the Instagram. If you're not comfortable, that's fine. Whoever has the red cape, purple, some attire. Let's shout out to International Women's Day, and thank you for coming and making this International Women's Day possible for us.